Fayetteville, West Virginia, Christmas Eve, 1945. World War II had just ended, and a spirit of joyous relief hung over America. For George and Jenny Sodder, Italian immigrants who had built a successful trucking business, it was a night of pure family celebration. They had 10 children in total, 9 of whom were home for the holidays. George and Jenny were beloved by the community, but George held fiercely outspoken anti-fascist views, often criticizing Benito Mussolini, a political stance that had already brought threats to their door. The Sodder family was not unknown to veiled warnings. Months before the fire, an insurance salesman George refused had cursed him, warning his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed. Another stranger had even visited the home, seemingly casing the property. As the hours ticked toward Christmas Day, the 5 younger children begged to stay up late playing with new toys. Jenny finally relented, letting them stay up, with the oldest 2 boys promising to put the cows in before bed. At 12:30 a.m., Jenny was abruptly awoken by the phone ringing downstairs. She answered to an unfamiliar woman asking for a name she didn't recognize. In the background, she distinctly heard the clinking of glasses and a strange, raucous laughter. Jenny told the woman she had the wrong number and hung up, thinking nothing of it. But this phone call, which pulled Jenny downstairs and confirmed the house was not secure, may have been the precise moment the sinister plan was activated. 30 minutes after the strange phone call, Jenny woke again, hearing a loud thud on the roof, followed by a rolling noise. She was briefly startled, but fell back asleep. It wasn't until another half hour later, around 1 a.m., that she woke to the smell of smoke. The room George used for his office, where the phone lines and fuse box were, was already engulfed. Jenny and George scrambled, managing to escape with 4 of the children, John, George Jr., Marion, and the youngest, Sylvia. 5 children, Morris, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were trapped upstairs. George, desperate, ran outside for the extension ladder he kept permanently propped against the house. It was gone, later found hidden in a ditch 75 feet away. George then turned to his final option, using his 2 coal trucks to prop himself up to the 2nd floor window. But inexplicably, neither truck would start, despite working perfectly the day before. The starter on one was allegedly tampered with. The Sodders watched, helpless, as the fire consumed their home in just 45 minutes. With the 5 children still inside, the children's older sister, Marion, ran to a neighbor's house, but their phone line was also dead. It was later discovered that the Sodders' phone line had been manually cut, not burned through. This was deliberate sabotage. Compounding the issue, the Fayetteville Fire Department, just 2.5 miles away, didn't arrive until 8 a.m. the next morning, 7 agonizing hours later. The fire chief claimed they were short on manpower due to the holiday. By the time they arrived, all that remained was a smoking pile of ashes and the open basement. The search for the 5 children was tragically brief and incompetent. After just a few hours of sifting through the still hot rubble, Fire Chief Morris declared that the children had perished in the blaze, their remains completely consumed. Death certificates were issued just 4 days later, but Morris's conclusion was not rooted in science. The initial search had yielded absolutely no human remains, no skulls, no skeletons, no traces of the 5 children. This shocking lack of evidence was the beginning of the conspiracy theory. Jenny Sodder simply could not accept this. She knew that appliances, like the wood stove and tires, had been found partially recognizable in the basement. She spoke to a crematorium employee who confirmed that it takes hours of consistent, intense heat to reduce a body to ash. The Sodder house fire lasted only 45 minutes and burned far cooler. Jenny's conclusion was chilling. If her children had been in that house, their remains would have been found. They were not there. Just days after the fire, George Sodder bulldozed the site, covering the basement with 5 feet of dirt to create a memorial garden. This act, done with good intentions, permanently destroyed the ability to conduct a comprehensive forensic search. However, in 1949, during a formal excavation, a few fragments of human vertebrae were finally found. Pathologists determined the bones showed no signs of fire damage and were likely from a person aged 16 to 22. They were suspected to have been mixed in with the fill dirt George used. The only definitive physical evidence found was ultimately deemed irrelevant to the 5 missing children. The circumstantial evidence, the threats, the cut phone line, the missing ladder, the non-starting trucks, and the object on the roof all point to one chilling conclusion: arson and kidnapping. George and Jenny became convinced their children had been taken. Given George's strong public anti-fascist political opinions and Italian heritage, the theory emerged that the fire was a coordinated diversion staged by organized crime or agents connected to fascist sympathizers. They intended to steal the children and terrorize the family. The sightings began almost immediately. A woman running a truck stop in Charleston, 50 miles away, claimed she served breakfast to the 5 missing children the morning after the fire. They were accompanied by 2 Italian-looking men and 2 women, and the children were unusually quiet. Another local woman claimed she saw the children riding in a car, watching the fire from afar. To the Sodders, these were not rumors. They were proof. Their children were alive somewhere, victims of a sinister plot designed to punish their father. The Sodders refused to give up. They spent their fortune on private investigators and traveling the country, chasing down leads that went cold. Their most enduring symbol of hope was the billboard they erected on Route 16. It stood for decades, becoming a haunting regional landmark and a symbol of a family's desperate hope against an official narrative. George Sodder died in 1969, never knowing the truth. Jenny kept the search going until her death in 1989. For nearly 40 years, that sign asked the world, what happened to our children? 23 years after the fire, the mystery took its most chilling turn. In 1968, Jenny received a cryptic envelope postmarked from Kentucky with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a young man in his 20s who bore an unmistakable resemblance to their missing son, Louis. On the back, someone had written Louis Sodder, followed by the strange code, a 90,132. The Sodders were convinced this was their son, alive, sending a secret message. They hired a private investigator to go to Kentucky. But eerily, they never heard from the investigator again, and the lead vanished. The photo remains the single greatest piece of evidence suggesting the children survived and were taken. The case remains officially unsolved, though many authorities still cling to the initial flawed conclusion that the children died in the fire. The search for the truth continues today, led by the surviving Sodder children, most notably Sylvia, who was just a toddler during the fire. She ensures the legacy of her lost siblings lives on, never accepting the impossible conclusion of the fire chief. The Sodder Children disappearance is a haunting American tragedy. It challenges our fundamental trust in authority and science. Do we believe the official but impossible explanation that 5 bodies were entirely vaporized in a 45-minute house fire? Or do we believe the parents who saw the sabotage, chased the sightings, and received the final chilling photograph? It is a mystery built on a foundation of political threats, mechanical failure, missing evidence, and a family's desperate hope that their children are out there somewhere living a hidden life. 79 years later, the silence of 5 children on Christmas Eve 1945, remains one of the darkest, most enduring secrets of the holiday season. What happened to the Sodder children? Was the fire sabotage for a political kidnapping, or were the bodies truly vaporized? Tell us your theory in the comments.